नमस्ते सारस्वती देवी गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी भाषितारिणे श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण विष्णु कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। सर्वशास्त्राभि पीयूष सर्ववेदिक सत्फल सर्वसिद्धांत रत्नाढ्य सर्वलौकिक त्रिप्रदा सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रोक्त विद्वान तोदितादित्य श्री कृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानंद पार्थाय प्रेमवर्षक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्री कृष्णाय नमोस्तुमे। मदेव बंधो मत्संगी मद्गुरो मन्महाधन मन्निस्तारक मद्भाग्य मदानंद नमोस्तुते। अथाचु साधुतादायं तदनीक्षोच्चतागर आनमुच्च कदाचन मां ब्रह्मणा हृदकंठयो स्फुर। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। So today is 4th of September, starting with 1.8.17 to 1.8.27. So Kunti Stuti, so it's detailed. Lot of Siddhanta. 17. Brahmatejo vinirmuktair atmajais saha krishnaya prayanabhimukam krishnam idam maha pratha sati. Thus saved from the radiation of the Brahmastra, Kunti, the chaste devotee of the Lord, and her 5 sons and Draupadi addressed Lord Krishna as he started for home. Saha. Kunti is described here as Sati or chaste due to her unalloyed devotion to Lord Sri Krishna. Her mind will now be expressed in the following prayers for Lord Krishna. So there is something called spiritual chastity, that one asks the Supreme Lord only for devotion service unto his lotus feet and nothing else. A chaste devotee of the Lord does not look to others, namely any other living being or demigod, even for deliverance from danger. That was all along the characteristic of the whole family of the Pandavas. They knew nothing except Krishna, and therefore the Lord was also always ready to help them in all respects and in all circumstances. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord. In other words, they were Sharanagata. They had fully surrendered themselves unto Krishna's lotus feet, and that is very evident in Srimad Bhagavatam. It is not so evident in Mahabharata. At least the Mahabharata version that is popular, that is the one that has been published by Vaishampayana. So they've taught Mahabharata to a number of disciples. And Vaishampayana re-spoke the Mahabharata. Jaimini Rishi also re-spoke the Mahabharata. But Jaimini Rishi's presentation of Mahabharata is quite similar to Srimad Bhagavatam. The Ashwamedha Parva of Jaimini's Mahabharata is there. And when one examines that, it is clear that it's a very, very mature presentation meant for highly spiritual practitioners, actually. It's not the Mahabharata that is more popular is the version that we have from Vaishampayana. Vaishampayana spoke to Janamejaya, Parikshit's son. The Pandavas were surrendered, which means that they were interested in pleasing the Lord, Anukulyasya Sankalpa. They wanted to avoid anything which was displeasing to Lord Krishna, Pratikulyasya Varjanam. And all their desires to render devotional service to the Lord and protection from the Lord so that they could serve Lord Krishna. All of those desires were filled with the conviction that Lord Krishna would save them and protect them and would enable them to serve him. They also requested the Lord to enable that. So, Rakshishyati iti Vishwasa, Gotritve Varanam Tatha, and the Nikshepanam Akarpanyam. They did not try to solve the problems themselves. They were strictly interested in carrying out the instructions of Lord Krishna for their problems to be solved. And they did not take help from anyone on any instruction that contradicted Lord Krishna's instructions. They knew nothing except Krishna. So that is, so in that way they exhibited the symptoms of Sharanagati to the fullest extent. They knew nothing except Krishna, and therefore the Lord
that is some unnecessary. They automatically add in Telegram. We'll have to get out from that group and update your setting. It will keep coming.
Turn off this thing. This will allow me to turn off. This is called spam bomb. I'll solve it later on. They knew nothing except Krishna, and therefore the Lord was also always ready to help them in all respects and in all circumstances. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam is a scripture which clarifies the teachings of Mahabharata. Bharatartha Vinirnaya. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord. He reciprocates the dependence of the devotee. One should not therefore look for help from imperfect living beings or demigods, but one should look for all help from Lord Krishna, who is competent to save his devotees. Such a chaste devotee also never asks the Lord for help, but the Lord, out of his own accord, is always anxious to render it. 18. Prithyavacha. Namasye Purusham Tvadyam Ishwaram Prakriteh Param Alaksham Sarvabhutanam Antarbahiravastitam. Srimati Kunti said, O Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you because you are the original personality and are unaffected by the qualities of the material world. You are existing both within and without everything, yet you are invisible to all. Tvam Namasye, Namaskaromi. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Anu Kanishtam Mam Katham Namaskaroshi Tatraha. Anticipated question. I am younger to you. How is it that you are offering obeisances unto me? Response. Adyam Purusham. You are the original person, original Purusha. Anticipated question. Kutaha. How's that? Response. Prakriteh Param. Because you are transcendental to Prakriti. Anticipated question. Tat Kutaha. How's that? Response. Ishvara. You are the Lord. Prakriteerapi Niyantara. You are even the controller of Prakriti. Atayeva Sarvabhutanam Antarbahishcha Purnatvena Avasthitam. Therefore, you are situated completely, perfectly, inside and outside of all creatures. Athapya Laksham. And still, you cannot be detected. Srimati Kunti Devi was quite aware that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead, although he was playing the part of her nephew. Such an enlightened lady could not commit a mistake by offering obeisances unto her nephew. Therefore, she addressed him as the original Purusha, beyond the material cosmos, although all living entities are also transcendental. They're neither original nor infallible. The living entities are apt to fall down under the clutches of material nature, but the Lord is never like that. There is a categorical difference between the Jivatmas and the Supreme Lord. Therefore, even the liberated Jivatmas are not as good as the Lord. Because the Jivatma is Ubhaya Vaibhava Yogya. He is capable of being in the material existence or in the spiritual existence. He has that capacity. Whereas there is no question of such a consideration in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maya cannot be with him. Maya cannot coexist in the presence of the Lord. In the Vedas, therefore, he is described as a chief among all living entities. Nitya Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. Then again, he is addressed as Ishvara or the controller. The living entities or the demigods like Indra, Chandra, and Surya are also to some extent Ishvara. But none of them is the supreme Ishvara or the ultimate controller. He is the Parameshwara or the super soul. He is both within and without. Although he was present before Srimati Kunti as her nephew, he was also within her and everyone else. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, I am situated in everyone's heart, and only due to me one remembers, forgets, is cognizant, etc. Through all the Vedas, I am to be known because I am the compiler of the Vedas and I am the teacher of the Vedanta. Queen Kunti affirms that the Lord, although both within and without all living beings, is still invisible. The Lord is, so to speak, a puzzle for the common man. Queen Kunti experienced personally that Lord Krishna was present before her, yet he entered within the womb of Uttara to save her embryo from the attack of Ashwatthama's Brahmastra. Kunti herself was puzzled about whether Shri Krishna is all-pervasive or localized. In fact, he is both, but he reserves a right of not being exposed to persons who are not surrendered souls. This checking curtain is called the Maya energy of the Supreme Lord, and it controls the limited vision of the rebellious soul. It is explained as follows. 19. Maya Javanikad Channam Agyadho Shajamabhyam Na Lakshyase Mudha Drisha Nato Natyadharo Yatha. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. Tatra hetuhu. The reason for Kunti Devi saying whatever she said in text 18 is stated in text 19. Maya eva jaunika tiraskarini taya achanna pratikchanna. Maya is the one who causes the vision of the Lord to disappear. So this world, the living beings are covered by her. Prayakshannam pratikshannam. Ataha aham agya bhakti yoga anabhigya kevalam namasyami. Agya. Agya. I'm ignorant. So you are not seen by a person like me who's just a foolish observer and ignorant. Ignorant. She takes the role of a person who is not experienced in Bhakti Yoga. Ignorant means ignorant of Bhakti Yoga, not experienced in Bhakti Yoga. Kevalam namasyami. Therefore, I simply offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Adhaha akshajam indriyajam jnanam yasmat tam. Adhokshaja indicates Very nice explanations. Adhokshaja indicates that Krishna, knowledge derived from the senses are coming from him. That is one meaning. Another meaning, this Deepani says, Svatasiddha Jnanam. It's Radharaman Goswami. He has stated, Adhokshaja indicates that the Supreme Lord's nature is self-perfect. Virarangacharya has given another commentary, another note. Yadva Agyadhokshaja Akshaja Indriya Vrittayaha Yasmad Saha Adhokshaja Indriya Vrittya Vishayaha. Agyadhokshajam indicates that the extensions of the senses, they can never ever reach to him. He is beyond the reach of the extensions of the senses. Ajnanam, Anupasakanam, Adhokshajam, Agyadhokshajam. He takes Agyadhokshajam as a single word. And the meaning will be Krishna is a person who is beyond the reach of the sensory perception of those who do not worship him and therefore are ignorant of him. Wait, let me get back. Avyayam, Aparichinnam. He is inexhaustible. Krishna is inexhaustible. Either Swami. Which means that he is not fragmented. Tat prapanchaha mudhadrisha dehabhimanina pumsa natvam lakshyasya. And all of this cannot be detected by a man who is mudhadrisha, who is a foolish observer. A foolish observer is one who identifies himself with his body. The idea is that just as an actor best in a play is not recognized, so like that, you're the Supreme Lord and you're not recognized. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Shri Krishna affirms that less intelligent persons mistake him to be an ordinary man like us and thus they deride him. The same is confirmed herein by Queen Kunti. The less intelligent persons are those who rebel against the authority of the Lord. Such persons are known as asuras. The asuras cannot recognize the Lord's authority. When the Lord himself appears amongst us as Rama, Nrsimha, Varaha, or in his original form as Krishna, he performs many wonderful acts which are humanly impossible. As we shall find in the 10th canto of this great literature, Lord Shri Krishna exhibited his humanly impossible activities, even from the days of his lying on the lap of his mother. He killed the Putana witch, although she smeared her breast with poison just to kill the Lord. The Lord sucked her breast like a natural baby, and he sucked out her very life also. Similarly, he lifted the Govardhan hill, just as a boy picks up a frog's umbrella and stood several days continuously just to give protection to the residents of Vrindavan. These are some of the superhuman activities of the Lord described in the authoritative Vedic literatures like the Puranas, Itihasas, and Upanishads. He has delivered wonderful instructions in the shape of the Bhagavad Gita. He has shown marvelous capacities as a hero, as a householder, as a teacher, and as a renouncer. He is accepted as the Supreme Personality of Godhead by such authoritative personalities as Vyasa, Devala, Asita, Narada, Madhva, Ramanuja, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Siddhanta Saraswati, and all other authorities of the time, of the line. He himself has declared as much in many places of the authentic literatures. And yet there is a class of men with demoniac mentality who are always reluctant to accept the Lord as the supreme absolute truth. This is partially due to their poor fund of knowledge and partially due to their stubborn obstinacy, which results from various misdeeds in the past and present. Such persons could not recognize Lord Shri Krishna even when he was present before them. Another difficulty is that those who depend more on their imperfect senses cannot realize him as a supreme Lord. Such persons are like the modern scientists. They want to know everything by their experimental knowledge. But it is not possible to know the Supreme Person by imperfect experimental knowledge. It is described here as Adhokshaja. How does Prabhupada explain Adhokshaja? Adhokshacham, beyond the range of material conception, or beyond the range of experimental knowledge. All our senses are imperfect. We claim to observe everything and anything, but we must admit that we can observe things under certain material conditions only, which are also beyond our control. The Lord is beyond the observation of sense perception. Queen Kunti accepts this deficiency of the conditioned soul, especially of the woman class, who are less intelligent. For less intelligent men, there must be such things as temples, mosques, or churches, so that they may begin to recognize the authority of the Lord and hear about him from authorities in such holy places. For less intelligent men, this beginning of spiritual life is essential, and only foolish men decry the establishment of such places of worship which are required to raise the standard of spiritual attributes for the mass of people. For less intelligent persons, bowing down before the authority of the Lord, as generally done in the temples, mosques, or churches, is as beneficial as it is for the advanced devotees to meditate upon him by active service. 20. Tha Paramahamsanam Muninam Amalatmanam Bhakti Yoga Vidhanartham Katham Pashyema Histriyaha. You yourself descend to propagate the transcendental signs of devotional service unto the hearts of the advanced transcendentalists and mental speculators, who are purified by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit. How then can we women know you perfectly? Kimcha, moreover, Paramahamsanam Atmanatma Vivekinam Tataha Muninam Mananashilanam api Tatascha Amalatmanam Nivritta Ragadinam api Tatha Tena Nijam Mahim na Lakshyase. Taha Bhakti Yogam Vidhatum Tvam Vayam Striyaha Katham hi Pashyema. So, moreover, even for the Paramahamsas, who are capable of discriminating between spirit and matter, as well as the sages who are capable of spiritual contemplation, as well as those souls who are spiritually pure, that is, those who are freed from attractions, repulsions, and so on. Even they, by their own glories, cannot detect you. Therefore, in order to bestow Bhakti Yoga, therefore, how can we women see you or know you who has come to bestow Bhakti Yoga? Yadva, alternative explanation. Paramahamsadinam api Bhakti Yoga Vidhanartham Tvam Atma Ramanam Yachintyan Nijag Gunaihi Akrishya Bhakti Yoga Vidhatum Karayitum Avatiranam Ityarthaha. You appear to bestow Bhakti Yoga even to the Paramahamsas, the Munis, and the Amalatmas. You have descended. The meaning is you have descended to attract the Atma Ramas, to attract even the Atma Ramas with your inconceivable, personal, attractive qualities and make them engage in Bhakti Yoga. Even the greatest philosophical speculators cannot have access to the region of the Lord. In the Upanishads, it is said that the supreme truth, the absolute personality of God is beyond the range of the thinking power of the greatest philosopher. He is unknowable by great learning or by the greatest brain. He is knowable only by one who has his mercy. I am Atma Pravachanena Labhya, na Medhaya na Bhuvna Shrutena, Yamme Vaishya Pranate Tena Labhyastasya Atma Vipranate Tanam Swam. Others may go on thinking about him for years together, yet he is unknowable. This very fact is corroborated by the queen, who is playing the part of an innocent woman. Women in general are unable to speculate like philosophers, but they are blessed by the Lord because they believe at once in the superiority and almightiness of the Lord, and thus offer obeisances without reservation. The Lord is so kind that he does not show special favor only to one who is a great philosopher. He knows the sincerity of purpose. For this reason only, women generally assemble in great numbers in any sort of religious function. In every country and in every sect of religion, it appears that the women are more interested than the men. This simplicity of acceptance of the Lord's authority is more effective than showy, insincere, religious fervor feelings. 21. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudeva, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda, and the other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and the enlivener of the cows and the senses. Jnanabhaktyoho ashakyatvam uktva punah kevalam namaskaroti Krishnayeti dvabhyam. And then Kunti Devi, considering herself incapable of engaging in the processes of jnana or bhakti, simply offers her obeisances unto the Lord in two verses, texts 21 and 22. The Lord, being thus unapproachable by any material assets, out of unbounded and causeless mercy, descends to the earth as he is, in order to show his special mercy upon his unalloyed devotees and to diminish the upsurges of the demoniac persons. Queen Kunti specifically adores the incarnation or descent of Lord Krishna above all other incarnations, because in this particular incarnation he is more approachable. In the Rama incarnation, he remained a king's son from his very childhood. But in the incarnation of Krishna, although he was the son of a king, he at once left the shelter of his real father and mother, King Vasudeva and Queen Devaki, just after his appearance, and went to the lap of Yashoda Mahi to play the part of an ordinary cowherd boy in the blessed Vrajabhumi, which is very sanctified because of his childhood pastimes. Therefore, Lord Krishna is more merciful than Lord Rama. Now, this is a point you will hear from the various Vaishnava lines. That Krishna is much more accessible. His Sulabha, his Saulabhya is greater, his accessibility is greater, and he proved it by living with cowherds. Because in general, the Vaishnava lines focused on the Aishwarya form of Bhagavad Bhakti. They do not detect, they're not able to understand the glories of Krishna's renowned pastimes. But this much they understand. Initially, when I came across it, I thought, what is this? How can they just interpret Krishna's Rajalila in terms of Saulabhya? But then I noticed here, Prabhupada also talks like that. He was undoubtedly very kind to Kunti's brother Vasudeva and the family. Had he not become the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, Queen Kunti could not claim him to be her nephew and thus address Krishna in parental affection. But Nanda and Yashoda are more fortunate because they could relish the Lord's childhood pastimes, which are more attractive than all other pastimes. There is no parallel to his childhood pastimes as exhibited at Vrajabhumi, which are replicas of his eternal affairs in the original Krishna Loka, described as the Chintamani Dham in the Brahma Samhita. Lord Shri Krishna descended himself at Vrajabhumi with all his transcendental entourage and paraphernalia. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore confirmed that no one is as fortunate as the residents of Rajabhumi, and specifically the cowherd girls, who dedicated their everything for the satisfaction of the Lord. His pastimes with Nanda and Yashoda, and his pastimes with the cowherd men, and especially with the cowherd boys and the cows, have caused him to be known as Govinda. Lord Krishna as Govinda is more inclined to the Brahmanas and the cows, indicating thereby that human prosperity depends more on these two items, namely Brahmanical culture and cow protection. Lord Krishna is never satisfied where these are lacking. So it is the duty of all who engage in Krishna consciousness, whether they are sinless Vanishtas, sinless Varnishtitas, or sinless Nirapekshas, to at least verbally, if not actively, support Brahmanical culture and cow protection. 22. Namah Pankajanabhaya, Namah Pankajamalini, Namah Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajankraye. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as a lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. Pankajam Nabho Yasya. Pankajanam Malasti Yasya. Pankajavat Prasanne Netre Yasya. Pankaja Netra means one whose eyes are as pleasing as lotuses. The lotus eye has that indication. Pankajangri. Pankajankitau Angri Yasya Tasmai. His lotus feet, his feet are engraved with lotuses, and therefore he is referred to as having lotus feet. No, not a particular.
So in the commentary here, in the previous verse, it was written that in these two verses, Kunti Devi considers herself unable to do Gyan Bhakti, therefore she is simply offering these prayers. But the prayers are also part of Bhakti only. No?
Ravanam, Kirtanam. Okay, these two come. This is the first step. Strictly speaking, it's Kirtanam first. Then is Shravanam. But you cannot do Kirtanam unless you have heard correctly. Therefore, the order is reversed. But the topmost service is Kirtanam. Second is Shravana. Then Smarana. Then you have one by one, Archana. Then you have Vandana. Each of the later ones require the earlier ones. So when we actually talk about Bhakti, first of all, we are talking about Shravanam Kirtan. Then we are talking about Shravanam Kirtanam Smarana. Then we are talking about Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam. Then we are talking about Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam. Then only we are talking about Vandana, which anyway requires Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandana. So if we are not able to sufficiently engage in these ones, at least we should offer full obeisances unto Krishna's lotus feet and beg him to help us. That is the point. Krishna will always help. He will generally send his representatives to help us. He is more accessible in that manner. Okay, let's resume. Here are some of the specific symbolical marks on the spiritual body of the personality of Godhead, which distinguish his body from the bodies of all others. They are all special features of the body of the Lord. The Lord may appear as one of us, but he is always distinct by his specific bodily features. Srimati Kunti claims herself unfit to see the Lord because of her being a woman. This is claimed because women, Shudras, the laborer class, and the Dvijabandhus, or the richer descendants of the higher three classes, are unfit by intelligence to understand transcendental subject matter concerning the spiritual name, fame, attributes, forms, etc. of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Such persons, although they are unfit to enter into the spiritual affairs of the Lord, can see him as the Arshavigraha, who descends to the material world just to distribute favors to the fallen souls, including the above-mentioned women, Shudras, and Vijabandhus. Because such fallen souls cannot see anything beyond matter, the Lord condescends, he agrees to enter into each and every one of the innumerable universes as the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who grows a lotus stem from the lotus-like depression in the center of his transcendental abdomen. So there is a lotus in his navel, which grows from his navel. And thus Brahma, the first living being in the universe, is born. Therefore, the Lord is known as the Pankaja Nabhi. Nabhi means navel. Pankaja means lotus. The Pankaja Nabhi Lord accepts the Arshavigraha as transcendental form in different elements, namely a form within the mind, a form made of wood, a form made of earth, a form made of metal, a form made of jewels, a form made of paint, a form drawn on sand, etc. This is right from 11th canto, Lord Krishna's description of deity worship. All such forms of the Lord are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, and there should be a soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship to attract the burning attention of the non-devotees, always engaged in material wranglings. So all of us who have some ability to control the temple atmosphere, whether you have a small branch or a large temple, all of us should take note of this. The meditators worship a form within the mind. Therefore, the Lord is merciful, even to the women, Shudras and Vijabandhus, provided they agree to visit the temple of worship in different forms made for them. Such temple visitors are not idolaters, idol worshippers. Those who create idols based on their imagination. As alleged by some men with a poor fund of knowledge, all the great acharyas established such temples of worship in all places, just to favor the less intelligent. And one should not pose himself as transcending the stage of temple worship while one is actually in the category of the Shudras and the woman or less. One should begin to see the Lord from his lotus feet, gradually rising to the thighs, waist, chest, and face. One should not try to look at the face of the Lord without being accustomed to seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. Srimati Kunti, because of her being the aunt of the Lord, did not begin to see the Lord from the lotus feet because the Lord might feel ashamed. And thus Kunti Devi, just to save a painful situation for the Lord, began to see the Lord just above his lotus feet, that is, from the waist of the Lord, gradually rising to the face, then down to the lotus feet. In the round, everything there is in order. This is all Vishnu Chakravarti topic. So I was just explaining it in English. Why are women considered to be less intelligent? This is $1 million question the whole world is asking. Why do the ancient cultures of the world refer to women as less intelligent? First of all, intelligence, according to the Vedic conception, pertains, first of all, you should understand Vedic knowledge itself is targeted towards Vairagya, Vidya, and Bhakti. Vairagya not only in the internal sense, in the external sense also. Vidya, not just about material knowledge, but about spiritual reality also. And Bhakti, not only in terms of activities, but also in terms of desires, aspirations. So, if you carefully examine the sort of devotion service that is required and which is demonstrated by the Goswamis, for instance, we understand that as our ideal. We all need to come to that point. We need to come to the point where we give up Ahara Nidra Bhaya Maithuna. That requires a certain type of intelligence in order to, first of all, understand what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. That intelligence is found to a lesser extent in women. That sort of intelligence. We are not talking about the sort of intelligence required to attain Artha Kama. We are not even talking about the sort of intelligence to attain Dharma Artha Kama. We are talking about the sort of intelligence to attain moksha or Bhagavad Prema, moksha buddhi. And doing everything that is required in order to attain that. It's one thing to just want to make the abused woman satisfied. It is like saying children are less intelligent. We all know that children are less intelligent. But we don't have any negative feelings towards them, nor do we think we should exploit them for our happiness. Similarly, women are always considered less intelligent. But women and children are always the objects of great charm. The whole world is moving about because of attraction to women, and Vedic culture also. That is very much accepted. Just that, because everything is meant, even from the gross perspective, Vedic culture is targeted towards moksha. It's like a school is targeted towards helping the children progress standard by standard until they graduate from the school. So like that, Vedic civilization is also targeted to help us move from the platform of Kama to the platform of Artha, to the platform of Dharma, to the platform of Moksha. At least this much. At least this much. So from this perspective, many of the things which are considered great in today's world are all considered highly insignificant. Like for instance, becoming wealthy, becoming reputed. This is not considered great at all. This is not considered valuable at all in Vedic civilization. Because this is not going to help you attain liberation from material existence. So you need to examine whether the civilization that you are basing your analysis on is the Daiva civilization or the Asura civilization. If you look at Bhagavad Gita chapter 16, you will come across two different civilizations. In each civilization, there's a different value system. That means they value different things. In the Asura civilization, Artha Kama is valued. Whereas in the Daiva civilization, Dharma Moksha are valued. So in Mahabharata, there's a statement that the exalted souls, they found pleasure in the end points. And the insignificant souls, they have found pleasure in the middle points. So now Vadiraja Tirtha has explained what this means. He says, this is a reference to Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. The four Purusharthas. The end points are Dharma and Moksha. This side is Dharma, that side is Moksha. And the middle points are Artha and Kama. So the exalted souls are the ones who are interested in Dharma and Moksha. That sort of Dharma which will give Moksha. It's not that sort of Dharma which will give Artha Kama. Nivritta Dharma, not Pravritta Dharma. Okay. So, if you consider the Daiva civilization, then it makes sense to refer to Vaishyas, Shudras, and women as less intelligent. Now, it's not just women are said to be less intelligent. The Shudras are said to be less intelligent, and the Vaishyas are said to be less intelligent. In today's world, those who make money are considered intelligent. And those who don't make money are considered to be, if they speak great philosophy, they are considered to be glorious fools. If they don't speak great philosophy, then they are considered to be third-class fools. People who don't know how to survive. No brain. So the civilization which criticizes that which is promoted by the Vaishyas and Shudra, that civilization criticizes, it points out that women are less intelligent. But again, this does not mean that women are demeaned. It is not the idea at all. Women are honored, but in such a manner that everybody can attain dharma and moksha, including the woman. So that arrangement is there in Vedic civilization very carefully. That don't do anything by which people will become more and more victims of lust, anger, greed. Don't do anything by which they will become more and more victims of vacho vegam, manasa krodha vegam, vikva vegam, udaro basta vegam. Don't do anything by which they will become victims of atyahara, prayasa, prajalpa, niyamadvaya, janasanga, lavya. Do things in such a manner that they will attain utsaha, nishchaya, dhairya, tattat karma, pravartana, sangatyaga, sadhuvritti. So from that perspective, then Vaishyas are less intelligent, Shudras are less intelligent, and women are less intelligent. Now, we all know that this may be a general principle, but there are exceptions. There are apavadas. There are Vaishyas who are extremely great Vaishnavas, who are very much interested in progressing towards liberation or love of God, pure love of God. Similarly, there are those with guna karma or Shudra who have progressed and attained the highest perfection of life. Similarly, there are women who have attained the highest perfection of life in a very exalted manner. Like here we see Kunti Devi herself is like that, even though she is portraying herself as just another ordinary woman, not interested in Vairagya Vidya Bhakti. It is not talking about the intelligence to attain Arthakama. It's talking about the intelligence to attain Dharma Moksha. Okay, we'll continue. 23. Yata Hrishikesha Khalena Devaki Kamsena Ruddha Ati Chiram Shucharpita Vimochitaham Cha Sahatma Javidho Vayaivanatena Muhur Vipat Ganat. O Rishikesha, master of the senses and lord of lords, you have released your mother Devaki, who was long imprisoned and distressed by the envious King Kamsa, and me and my children from a series of constant dangers. Tatkrita upakaran anusmarati yatheti dvabhyam. And then in 2 verses, she intensely remembers all the help that the Lord had given her. Ayamarthana. This is the point. Matritopi mai adhika tava priti. You have more affection for me than to even your own mother, Sahi. And that is stated here. Hey Rishikesha, O Lord Rishikesha, Yatha Devaki Kamsena Ruddha Vaya Vimochita. Just as Devaki was arrested by Kamsa and was released by you. Very nice explanations here. Aham cha tathaiva kim vimochita iti kakva mahan vishesha ukta. And I have been, and have I not been released from dangers? That is a great distinction here. Tam darshayati. Now he points out how she has been released. Sahati chiram ruddha sati Tasmadeva sakrit vimochita तथा शुचार्पिता च सती न च तस्याः पुत्रा रक्षिता अस्ति च अन्यः नाथः तस्याः. She was arrested, but not for long. And therefore, she was just released once. And that also when she was in a state of distress. Her sons were not protected. And she had a lord, a caretaker, to take care of her. Aham tu vipadganat tatrapi muhuhu shigram cha atmacha cha vayaiva cha nathena iti. But I was saved from a whole series of calamities. And that also, again and again, meaning quickly. And on top of it, I was protected along with my children. And I was protected by whom? I was protected by you as my caretaker. Devaki, the mother of Krishna and sister of King Kamsa, was put into prison along with her husband Vasudeva because the envious king was afraid of being killed by Devaki's eighth son, Krishna. They killed all the sons of Devaki who were born before Krishna. But Krishna escaped the danger of child slaughter because he was transferred to the house of Nanda Maharaj, Lord Krishna's foster father. Kunti Devi, along with her children, was also saved from a series of dangers. But Kunti Devi was shown far more favor because Lord Krishna did not save the other children of Devaki, whereas he saved the children of Kunti Devi. This was done because Devaki's husband Vasudeva was living, whereas Kunti Devi was a widow and there was none to help her except Krishna. So all those who are paranoid, saying that we should be more sensitive to those who are in greater need, they should understand that Krishna is the Bap of all sensitive persons. You cannot be as sensitive as Krishna is. He already knows. Even before that thought appeared to us, he already knows that this person, I need to take care of him or her even more. The conclusion is that Krishna endows more favor to a devotee who is in greater dangers. Sometimes he puts his pure devotees in such dangers because in that condition of helplessness, the devotee becomes more attached to the Lord. The more the attachment is there for the Lord, the more success is there for the devotee. There may be other reasons why difficulties are experienced by the devotees. One reason could be they could be just asking for trouble. They could be doing things which are simply wrong. And Prabhupada said, when you ask Krishna for material happiness, that is like a child asking for trouble. Prabhupada, when he was a householder, he had a son who wanted to. There was a fan, not ceiling fan, but it was mounted vertically. It's running, and this boy, he wanted to touch the moving fan. Wanted to touch it. It's just very exciting to touch it, see how it is. So Prabhupada, what he did, he turned it off. Somehow turned it off. It was going slow. And then he allowed him to touch it. So then when he touched it, then after that, Prabhupada asked, so do you want to touch again? He said, no, never. It's too frightening. So Krishna does these kind of things also. We ask for the wrong things, then he creates a special situation, special problem only for that sincere devotee who's just currently bewildered. That's all. The whole world will find easy to experience material happiness with that endeavor. But that fellow only, for him, Krishna will make it sound. He just mess it up. Big mess. So that is special help. Yasyaham anugrikhnami harishet adhanam shanai. So then one may say that he is experiencing so much difficulty. But that difficulty is the sort of difficulty that a patient experiences when he has received some medical treatment. It's good for him. Before Vishan Mahagne Purishada Darshana Asat Sabhaya Vanavasa Krishna Vrataha Mrithe Mrithe Neka Maharathastratto Draunyastratascha Mahadebhirakshita. My dear Krishna, your Lordship has protected us from a poison cave, from a great fire, from cannibals, from the vicious assembly, from sufferings during our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great generals fought. And now you have saved us from the weapon of Ashwatthama. Vipatganameva darshayati. He now points out that series of calamities which are Bhimasya Vishyam Modaka Dana. Krishna had protected Bhima when he was given a poisonous sweet cake. Mahagner Jatug Grihadaha was protected from the great fire that burnt up the house of lac. Purushada Hidambadayaha Rakshasaha Desham Darshana. And they had to meet Rakshasas such as Hidimba, Asatsabhaya, Dyutasthana. Krishna had protected them from the vicious assembly during the playing of dice. Avitaha Rakshita Asma Abhavam. So you have always protected us in every manner. Notice this, that in all of these situations, Krishna did not externally appear in his form as Krishna and protect. But they carefully and with maturity, they understand that it is Lord Krishna who protected us. Later on also we will see that's a chapter when Arjuna will talk about how Krishna protected them. In this canto itself, we will see. There also we see that they very much recognized it. Arjuna recognized it. Yudhishthira recognized it. Everyone recognized it. Everyone recognized that Krishna is the one who is protecting. The list of dangerous encounters is submitted here. Devaki was once put into difficulty by her envious brother. Otherwise, she was well. But Kunti Devi and her sons were put into one difficulty after another for years and years together. I think about for 100 years or so. They were put into trouble by Duryodhana and his party due to the kingdom, and each and every time the sons of Kunti were saved by the Lord. Once Bhima was administered poison in a cave. Once they were put into a house made of lac that was set afire. And once Draupadi was dragged into the vicious assembly of the Kurus and attempts were made to insult her by stripping her naked. Lord saved Draupadi by supplying an immeasurable length of cloth, and Duryodhana's party failed to see her naked. Similarly, when they were exiled in the forest, Bhima had to fight with the man-eater demon Hidimba Rakshasa. But the Lord saved him. So it was not finished there. After all these tribulations, there was a great battle of Kurukshetra, and Arjuna had to meet such great generals as Drona, Bhishma, and Karna, all powerful fighters. And at last, even when everything was done, there was the Brahmastra released by the son of Dronacharya to kill the child within the womb of Uttara. And so the Lord saved the only surviving descendant of the Kurus, Maharaj Parikshit. Krishna is very much interested in everyone, including children. Even children of devotees receive Krishna's favor. Because if from birth somebody can be made to progress towards Vairagya, Vidya, Bhakti increasingly with the pure attitude, it will be of great help throughout life. Krishna knows these things. 25. Vipadas santuta shashvar tatra tatra jagat guru bhavato darshanam yat syat apunar bhava darshanam. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again so that we could see you again and again. For seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated births and deaths. Yat yasu vipatsu kidrisham darshanam nasti punarapi bhavadarshanam yasma. I want those kinds of calamities in which we get to meet you, we get to see you, because of which we will not have to meet material existence again and again. Generally, those who are distressed, needy, intelligent, or inquisitive, and who have performed some pious activities, worship or begin to worship the Lord. Others who are thriving on misdeeds only, regardless of status, cannot approach the Supreme due to being misled by the illusory energy. Therefore, for a pious person, if there is some calamity, there is no other alternative than to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Constantly remembering the lotus feet of the Lord means preparing for liberation from birth and death. Therefore, even though there are so-called calamities, they're welcome because they give us an opportunity to remember the Lord, which means liberation. One who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are accepted as the most suitable boat for crossing the ocean of nations, can achieve liberation as easily as one leaps over the holes made by the hooves of a calf. Such persons are meant to reside in the abode of the Lord, and they have nothing to do with a place where there is danger in every step. This is 10th canto. The verse Padam Padam Yadvipadam Atesham. This material world is certified by the Lord in the Bhagavad Gita as a dangerous place full of calamities. Dukhalayam. Less intelligent persons prepare plans to adjust to those calamities without knowing that the nature of this place is itself full of calamities. They have no information of the abode of the Lord, which is full of bliss and without trace of calamity. The duty of the same person, therefore, is to be undisturbed by worldly calamities, which are sure to happen in all circumstances. Suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in spiritual realization because that is the mission of human life. I'll read that sentence again. That encapsulates Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's instructions to his followers. Suffering all sorts of unavoidable misfortunes, one should make progress in spiritual realization because that is the mission of human life. This itself is a point from 10th canto of Bhagavatam, Tattena Sampamsu Samikshamana. The spirit soul is transcendental to all material calamities. Therefore, the so-called calamities are called false. A man may see a tiger swallowing him in a dream and he may cry for his calamity. Actually, there is no tiger and there is no suffering. It is simply a case of dreams. In the same way, all calamities of life are said to be dreams. If someone is lucky enough to get in contact with the Lord by devotion service, it is all gain. Contact with the Lord by any one of the 9 devotional services is always a forward step on the path going back to Godhead. This verse seems very dangerous. Who will recite these other than realized souls? That's true. And she says, I am just an unintelligent woman. Who will accept that she is an unintelligent woman? Even exalted sannyasis will be terrified to pray to the Lord for this. Don't commit the mistake of offering some terrifying prayer to the Lord. You will register it. And for your whole life, you will say, but that day you asked me this. That is the best prayer you ask. All these third-class prayers, I don't care. That first-class prayer of the idea. So, we have to be careful. Careful of ourselves. More Radhapati.
Hare Krishna. True, said that calamities are an opportunity to remember Krishna, but many times it happens that most of the time calamities come, we forget Krishna more. Like if
No, but this is
normal,
all for
then
this is for those who are engaged in Bhakti Yoga now. Bhakti Yoga Krishna consciousness is higher. Karma Yoga Krishna consciousness, Jnana Yoga Krishna consciousness, Dhyana Yoga Krishna consciousness, Bhakti Yoga Krishna consciousness. pure Bhakti Yoga Krishna consciousness. And she is probably demonstrating pure Bhakti Yoga Krishna consciousness.
Yes. They are surrendered souls, so they will remember.
He's asking for trouble. Who will ask for trouble? If you don't know any, I will not even tell you to do an experiment by asking Radha Mother for trouble. You ask, then gone only, that's all. I heard of one devotee who once he had visited Varshana, Srimati Radharani's birthplace. Somehow he became spiritually very excited. And he offered a prayer to her. My dear Srimati Radharani, you are the supreme spiritual authority. Please, as soon as possible, please, whatever trouble you want to give, you give. But as soon as possible, I want to become pure. I can go through any amount of difficulty. Please give me whatever you want. But I need to come to that point. I need to go back to God. To serve Krishna under you and under your assistance, and these may be qualified. This is some high-fi prayer. Came back, then the doctor said that he developed some kind of cancer, and he's going to die within 6 months. Within 6 months, his whole body became just completely gone, finished. Completely gone. So then he was a householder. He was then moved to the local ISKCON temple, and his spiritual master and his brahmachari friends, they were there taking care of him in the final days, final hours. And his guru made sure that he was not able to see his wife and mother, even though his mother and wife were allowed to see him. Some special arrangement was made. His body, his sick body was kept in a particular place where from some distant window they could see him, but he could not see. They were very, very careful. They kept him immersed in Shravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. So you ask for it, you will get it. So we also need to be, and then don't ask prayers that you'll regret it. Progress without regrets, progress without regret also. You become terrified when you realize that Krishna is taking it all very seriously. When you say Nathanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, and then generally we have a silent subtext, but don't take it too seriously, okay? It's just the official dialogue. But when you don't even have that subtext, then you know that Krishna is going to actually deal with it, because he's our first spiritual master. Krishna himself is our spiritual master. He wants to relieve us that ajnana timirandhasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshuram miritam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. That function Krishna himself executes. So he is the first spiritual master. Everybody else is his representative spiritual master. So Krishna he's been waiting for several lifetimes when we are going to surrender to him, because it's ultimately for our good, but it requires maturity to understand that. It requires maturity to understand. So the whole idea is how to progress with increasing maturity. 26. Janmaishwarya Shrutashridhar Edhamana Vadah Puman Naivarhatya Bhijatum Vai Tvama Kinchana Gocharam. My Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. Because one who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot address you with sincere feelings. Sampadastu Shreya Paripantinya Ityaha Janma Satkule. These are all symptoms of prosperity. And prosperity itself, or the different types of prosperity, they are obstacles to Shreyas, obstacles to our permanent good. He says this in the current verse. Janma Satkule, Janma. Birth refers to birth in a noble, dharmic, spiritual, devotional family. Janmadhivir Edhamanaha Madaha Yasyasaha. But one whose pride is increased because of Janma Aishwarya Shutashri. Abhidatam, Sri Krishna Govindeti Vaktumapi will find it very difficult to even utter Sri Krishna, Govinda, and so on. Kinchananam Gocharam, Vishayabhutam. Because the Supreme Lord is actually the subject who is realized by those who possess nothing. Those who have all these auspicious facilities and who still are devoted are certainly very great souls. They should be honored. They should not be discriminated against. These are first of all disadvantages. These are first of all disadvantages. But those who want to transcend these disadvantages, they are certainly very great souls and they should be recognized as such. Being materially advanced means taking birth in an aristocratic family and possessing great wealth and education and attractive personal beauty. All materialistic men are mad after possessing all these material opulences, and this is known as the advancement of material civilization. We should also recognize that the Srimad Bhagavatam, which refers to women as less intelligent, also criticizes Janma Aishwarya Shutashri as being disadvantageous for the welfare of humanity. But the result is that by possessing all these material assets, one becomes artificially puffed up, intoxicated by such temporary possessions. Consequently, such materially puffed up persons are incapable of uttering the holy name of the Lord by addressing him feelingly. O Govinda, O Krishna. It is said in the Shastras that by once uttering the holy name of the Lord, the sinner gets rid of a quantity of sins that he is unable to commit. Such is the power of uttering the holy name of the Lord. There is not the least exaggeration in this statement. Actually, the Lord's holy name has such powerful potency, but there is a quality to such utterances also. It depends on the quality of feeling. A helpless man can feelingly utter the holy name of the Lord, whereas a man who utters the same holy name in great material satisfaction cannot be so sincere. A materially puffed up person may utter the holy name of the Lord occasionally, but is incapable of uttering the name in quality. Therefore, the four principles of material advancement, namely 1. High parentage, 2. Good wealth, 3. High education, and 4. Attractive beauty, are, so to speak, disqualifications for progress on the path of spiritual advancement. So we should understand that even those of us who have any one or more of these four are unfortunate, actually, from the perspective of pure Bhakti Yoga, because these are disadvantages. The material covering of the pure spirit soul is an external feature, as much as fever is an external feature of the unhealthy body. The general process is to decrease the degree of fever and not to aggravate it by maltreatment. Sometimes it is seen that spiritually advanced persons become materially impoverished. This is no discouragement. On the other hand, such impoverishment is a good sign, as much as the falling of temperature is a good sign. The principle of life should be to decrease the degree of material intoxication, which leads one to be more and more illusioned about the aim of life. Grossly illusioned persons are quite unfit for entrance into the kingdom of God. Quite unfit. There's a question here. If Krishna is more merciful, it always makes me think about it. Why does he, why does he provide this Gita, his philosophy, in such a way only for intelligent people? Only for intelligent people to take advantage of it. What about the poor? How is he merciful to them? Poor simply means those who don't have Aishwarya. And from the perspective of Bhakti Yoga, they are not really disadvantaged. The ones who are actually disadvantaged are those who have Janma, Aishwarya, Shruta, and Shri. Why do we preach to the educated youth? Because they are within that disadvantaged category. So there's a reason why we are dealing with these people. Not necessarily materially poor people. You cannot say that. I used to think that those who are materially poor are somehow better suited to Krishna consciousness. And then over the decades, I understood that is wrong. They may not be. The poor people want to become rich. The rich people want to continue to be rich. So what difference it makes? So these are not the appropriate considerations for who should be the object of Krishna's mercy. He is considering those who understand that whether I'm currently rich or currently poor, I should not be in this dukkhalayam ashashvatam environment. Those have developed maturity. Sometimes rich people are in poor circumstances. Like during the lockdown, we saw. Sometimes, rich people just stuck in a situation where they cannot even go out. They cannot even go out to the ATM. Under poor circumstances. So from Krishna's perspective, all of us, being his own children, we are actually extremely rich children. But due to various circumstances, we are caught up in this material world, which is like a lockdown, poverty-stricken circumstance. 27. Kinchana vittaya nivritta gunavrittaye atmaramaya shantaya kaivalya padaye namaha. My obeisances are unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the actions and reactions of the material modes of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are master of the monists. Prastuta manoratha purnaya punah pranamati. In order that she attained what she cherishes in her heart, she offers obeisances again. Akinchana, bhakta eva chittam sarvasvam yasya tasmai. Sorry, bhakta eva vittam sarvasvam yasya tasmai. Krishna is a person whose very property are the pure devotees of the Lord, who have no interest in any material possession, and who are akinchanas. The akinchanas here are the devotees. Devotee by definition refers to pure devotee. Actually, it first of all refers to perfect pure devotee. Then by extension, it can refer to imperfect pure devotee. Then as a further extension, it can refer to impure devotee. Tata kim? So what? Nivrittaha, gunavrittayaha, dharmartha kama vishayaha, yasma tasmai. Krishna is beyond the impacts of the modes of material nature. He is a person from whom one becomes detached and restrained from the effects of the three modes of material nature. The effects of the three modes of material nature are dharma, artha, kama. So when we take shelter of Krishna, we lose the desire for these. We become interested in moksha, bhagavad prema. Tat kutaha. How's that? Atma Ramayana. Because you're delighting in yourself. Tat kutaha. How's that? Shantaya. Ragadi rahitaya. You're devoid of raga and dvesha, attractions and repulsions. Kimchi kaivalya pataye, kaivalyam datum samarthaya. You're the master of kaivalya. Kaivalya refers to a state of being isolated from material existence. You're the master of that. In other words, you're capable of granting that. There's something in the chat. How to develop the quality of feeling. While we chant, we don't get any feeling. We simply finish our rounds. When Prabhupada was asked, how do you become serious in chanting? He said, by more chanting. He said, just like a drunkard becomes a drunkard. By drinking more and more and more, he becomes addicted to drinking. So by chanting more and more and more, we become addicted to chanting. That is one way. To submit to more advanced devotees who have a taste for chanting and so on. Effective chanting is what is required. Effective chanting. Chanting which produces a certain effect. From where you give these definitions for pure devotee, perfect, imperfect, etc. This is fake. It's not some complicated thing. We study Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, we'll have a clear understanding of what is perfect pure devotion service, what is imperfect pure devotion service, what is impure devotion service. You also understand other processes within Vedic Dharma. First of all, you understand other spiritual activities which lead to spiritual realization, but which is outside of devotion service. These have been greatly analyzed in our line. Very clear also, very distinct and clear. A living being is finished as soon as there is nothing to possess. Therefore, a living being cannot be, in the real sense of the term, a renouncer. A living being renounces something for gaining something more valuable. In other words, in today's world, we will actually consider this to be upgrade. Just think about it. When you upgrade from Windows 8.1 to Windows 10, you have renounced Windows 8.1. Upgrade always involves renunciation. You renounce something inferior to attain something which is superior. Superior means just like 10 rupees contains 5 rupees. 10 rupees is superior to 5 rupees. So like that, you give up something worth 5 rupees and you attain something worth 10 rupees is considered an upgrade. A student sacrifices his childish proclivities to gain better education. A servant gives up his job for a better job. Similarly, a devotee renounces the material world not for nothing, but for something tangible in spiritual value. Srila Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami and others gave up their worldly pomp and prosperity for the sake of the service of the Lord. They were big men in the worldly sense. Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis were ministers in the government service of Bengal. Actually, Raghunath Das Goswami was the son of a big zamindar of his time. But they left everything to gain something superior to what they previously possessed. The devotees are generally without material prosperity, but they have a very secret treasure house in the lotus feet of the Lord. There's a nice story about Srila Sanatana Goswami. He had a touchstone with him, and the stone was left in a pile of refuse. A needy man took it, but later on wondered why the valuable stone was kept in such a neglected place. He therefore asked him for the most valuable thing. Then he was given the holy name of the Lord. Kinchana means one who has nothing to give materially. A factual devotee or Mahatma does not give anything material to anyone because he has already left all material assets. He can, however, deliver the supreme asset, namely the personality of Godhead, because he is the only property of a factual devotee. The touchstone of Sanatana Goswami, which was thrown in the rubbish, was not the property of the Goswami. Otherwise, it would not have been kept in such a place. This specific example is given for the neophyte devotees just to convince them that material hankerings and spiritual advancement go ill together. Unless one is able to see everything as spiritual in relation with the Supreme Lord, one must always distinguish between spirit and matter. The spiritual master like Srila Sanatana Goswami, although personally able to see everything as spiritual, set this example for us only because we have no such spiritual vision. So when one takes on the role of a spiritual master, he is very much sensitive to what we see and what we do not see. Advancement of material vision or material civilization is a great stumbling block for spiritual advancement. Such material advancement entangles the living being in the bondage of a material body, followed by all sorts of material miseries. Such material advancement is called anartha, or things not wanted. Actually, this is so. In the present context of material advancement, one uses lipstick at a cost of 50 cents. And there are so many unwanted things which are all products of the material conception of life. Somebody was telling me that, and I was in South India only, somebody was telling me, that is a certain type of lipstick which costs 2,000 rupees. There may be even more expensive lipstick. What to speak of this flood of unnecessary products like mobile phones, devices, this, that, there are hundreds of, they're all unnecessary things. Somebody wants to put a topi on us and sell us something. By diverting attention to so many unwanted things, human energy is spoiled without achievement of spiritual realization, the prime necessity of human life. The attempt to reach the moon is another example of spoiling energy, because even if the moon is reached, the problems of life will not be solved. The devotees of the Lord are called akinchanas because they have practically no material assets. Such material assets are all products of the three modes of material nature. They foil spiritual energy. Thus, the less we possess such products of material nature, the more we have a good chance for spiritual progress. The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no direct connection with material activities. All his acts and deeds which are exhibited even in this material world are spiritual and thus unaffected by the modes of material nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that all his acts, even his appearance and disappearance in and out of the material world, are transcendental, and that one who knows this perfectly shall not take his birth again in this material world, but will go back to Godhead. Material disease is due to hankering after and lording it over material nature. This hankering is due to an interaction of the three modes of nature, and neither the Lord nor the devotees have attachment for such false enjoyment. Therefore, the Lord and the devotees are called Nivritta Gunavritti. The perfect Nivritta Gunavritti is the Supreme Lord because he never becomes attracted by the modes of material nature, whereas the living beings have such a tendency. Some of them are entrapped by the illusory attraction of material nature, and some are not. But nevertheless, they have that tendency or that ability. But Krishna does not. Because the Lord is the property of the devotees and the devotees are the property of the Lord reciprocally, the devotees are certainly transcendental to the modes of material nature. That is a natural conclusion. Such unalloyed devotees are distinct from mixed devotees who approach the Lord for mitigation of miseries and poverty or because of inquisitiveness and speculation. The unalloyed devotees and the Lord are transcendently attached to one another. For others, the Lord has nothing to reciprocate. Therefore, he is called Atmarama, self-satisfied. Self-satisfied as he is the master of all monists who seek to merge into the existence of the Lord. Such monists merge within the personal effulgence of the Lord called the Brahmajyoti. But the devotees enter into the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, which are never to be misunderstood as material. I will not have time to go through the previous Acharya's explanations, but Prabhupada has generally taken his explanation, his purports from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Submit to great devotees means who I submitted to Gurudev Prabhupada. What else need to do? You need to do whatever is needed to make spiritual progress. If you pray to Krishna for intelligence to get that, he will easily point it out to you. So in the next session, I should actually begin with just checking through the previous Acharya's explanations for these verses to see if there are any additional points. Prabhupada is generally simply just Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But there may be some interesting points from Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Baladev Vidyabhushan, which are not covered in these purposes. So we'll stop with that.